cradle of civilizations, the living space of various nations, the host of dozens of cultures, Silim. With its centuries-old history, Silim, from past to present, not only hosts success in dozens of fields from fishing to gastronomy, from agriculture to art, it has not neglected to raise many heroes who immortalize the name of this charming town of Sayfaya in every field and carry it into the future. In folk dances, which sprouted in the early 70s, managed to come to the present, with flourishing branches and serve as an endless bridge to the future. Of course, Silivri has dozens of heroes it has raised, hosted, and who deserve to be remembered. Written with a bit of hope, plenty of food, and hard work during those difficult years, when the country was dealing with many challenges. How fortunate we are to have the heroes of this delightful story of those who say, I would sacrifice myself for Silivri. They gifted the Silivri region, which is the last compiled region of Turkey, and the only one in Istanbul. If you like, let's not prolong the talk and listen to their stories from their own mouths.
I was born 1940s Viz. I started my profession in 1962. I came to Silivri, September 29, 1969, and at Silivri High School. 1979's April 27th, 1979, I worked as a teacher.
In the year 1971, due to the Yogurt Fest in Silivri, the Turkish Folklore Institution was invited. So, I came as well. The Silivri. On the coast, there was the White House. The White House was the largest platform institution. I performed there with my Silivri team. Yogurts were served. We ate our meals, had fun. It was an interesting day for us. We returned. A week or 10 days passed. Later, I became very good friends. The late Temel Erdogan, whom I didn't know at the time, came to the Turkbol chair.
Coming to Silivri was like returning from military service. In our time, they showed 3 places. Here. Take this place, that place, this area. They said Satalka, they said Silivri, and they also mentioned Büyükçekmece to me. My wife was in Istanbul, I was in Vizi. We chose the middle, we came to Silivri. But I am very pleased with Silivri. I am very pleased with the people of Silivri. May God bless them. Let me say this first.
Now, I came to Silivri and I thought, no, I guess I didn't really like it. I said, let me complain a bit about our burden. But they said no. And I said I would get rid of it. I told the late Mr. Temel, okay brother, I'll come to Silivri, it's a public suggestion, and I'll also do teaching. But I would take 600 lira a month, he said. 600 lira was quite a lot of money back then. Even a teacher could hardly earn that. No, he said I would get rid of it, he was developing. The late Mr. Temel agreed to it. He said, okay, come. He said, the door. He said, the contract was left to us.
Going to Hüseyin Hoca for a certain... Does Hüseyin Hoca come here? With a cost, with money? But I never think that all of that money is paid or has been paid. Mr. Hussein couldn't receive this money. Mr. Hussein also has such a contribution. The man Sam came. And then he couldn't turn back there. Once more.
Silivri's. We organized the yogurt festival. Not that, but the yogurt festival on Republic Day during the liberation of Silivri. My uncle, they used to call Nura, Big Nura, Mr. Estre, Mr. Zaid, these are the elders here. At that time from there, they played the games. that were played here. My curiosity, I've had curiosity since I was little. Before those days, I grasped it like that and learned it like that. I mean...
We started working, there is nothing, no clothes around. I told Erdogan I played a lot during the liberation of Silivri. He said, I have pictures, bring them. He brought them, we benefited a little from that. Also, together with the late Temel Erdogan, we started to get to know the villages one by one.
Mr. Temel spends 7-8 months working in the villages in Silivri, conducting research, prepares a file and brings it to the Turkish Folklore Institution. And at the Turkish Folklore Institution, he registers it as Silivri folk dances. In Istanbul, there is only one district called Silivri, known for its folklore. Well, the late Mr. Temel, if he had been in Büyükçekmece, if he had been a teacher, if he had been an assistant principal in high school, now Memeke, Istanbul folk dances would have been recognized as Büyükçekmece folk dances.
Our teacher Temel has made a very significant contribution to the development of Silivri folk dances. Again, our teacher Hüseyin Görür, our teacher Numin Tulu, they came together in 1973 as well. I always say this, if this trio had gone to Çatalca instead of Silivri, our dances would have been known as the Çatalca region.
Of course, there were also these activities in Çatalca from there. It was even called the Çatalca region there. They played with the Kırklareli region, entered such competitions, but since there was no continuity, it didn't continue again, it stopped. But for us, it reached such a point that at least it's been a process close to 10 years. Or it revived in the Silivri region, in the Silivri area for about 8-10 years. Later, when it entered other archives, the event opened up to us as well. Later it opened up to us as well. In this regard, our young brothers, our brothers who grew up here, those who came here, our retired brothers who dedicated themselves to this work, our brothers who put in effort, the Silivri region both entered the ministry, the archive, and they started to play. In the ministry archive, at the same time, the Silivri region started to be played in various high schools in Istanbul. The event already surpassed us and went on. Even if we say the Silivri region doesn't exist anymore, it does.
With the coming together of a few idealistic teachers, Silivri Orası, which today resembles a massive plane tree with its lush branches, has rightfully earned its place in the Turkish folk dance literature. Gathering his team to bring to light the centuries-old accumulated culture of the town, tirelessly and persistently working on even the smallest details to carry it to the present day and now all around the world. It is undoubtedly Mehmet Temel Erdogan who laid the first foundation of folk dances in Silivri, representing our country through performances around the world. There are perhaps dozens of things that could be said about him. However, it is more appropriate to listen to him through his students.
A directive had come from the Ministry of National Education to all high schools to conduct folk dance activities. At that time, Mr. Temel was unable to find students around the year 1971. He had gathered a few friends from the student dormitory, including Gunga and some postal workers, inside. We were in the schoolyard at that time. Mr. Temel came out to the yard and told everyone to go inside. Naturally, we rushed inside. We saw Hüseyin Görür there working on the Silivri dance. Out of fear of Mr. Temel, I became the best performing student, and I became the team leader of the Silivri dance.
Professor Temel may not be with us right now, but he is always within us, always in our hearts, always in our minds. Because he was a very unique person. He was very strict, but at the same time, he had a very gentle heart. Sometimes we were very afraid, but sometimes he was like a safe harbor for us. He is ours.
At that moment, it felt a bit strict to us. He never liked laziness or doing things halfway. It was the same in our lessons. He always wanted a definite result. He demanded precision, he demanded attention. It was clear that he loved his work very much. That was his personality. Not only within the school, but even outside. In our social lives, we would sneak away, go to the coffee shop, and those of us who wanted to smoke, apart from our teacher, Temel. In Silivri, our parents wouldn't think about us or follow us as much as he did.
Mehmet Temel Erdoğan, he was our assistant director. It started with him. He brought us Hüseyin Görür from the Turkish Folklore Institution, who was the general secretary at that time. He brought Mr. Hüseyin. He is a folklore teacher, our first teacher.
Selections will be made. We dove into it with quite a bit of excitement. Our filming was done. In the third year of middle school, we were already in Silivri. Our main teacher chose us to prepare the high school's team. Thanks to him, folklore has existed in Silivri. Silivri is life for us. Our main teacher added life to life.
Until the end of my first year in high school, I never joined any team or anything. I didn't want to at all. I used to say, do girls and boys play together? What's that about? I was embarrassed. But Mr. Temel insisted, saying, no, you will play. Meanwhile, the period when Kemal Tufan and the Tufans were playing had begun.
Temel teacher was both our teacher and our neighborhood neighbor. He would show us Istanbul, bless him, because he was a bit tall. Would you like to see Istanbul? He would say, children. Of course, he would hold us by our ears as both our teacher and neighbor. We would say, okay, we definitely don't want to see Istanbul again. He was a teacher who was both sweet and strict, but truly an irreplaceable person.
It is a very important activity that everyone is passionate about and loves to do, and that changes the social life of an entire town. This was that event, and the foundations of this were laid by the main teacher. After that, his invitation to Hüseyin Hoca, Hüseyin Görür, because he was from the Turkish folklore group, his more scientific approach and his knowledge of different regions, and the Silivri regions, his contribution to the initial research was, of course, very significant.
I was in middle school. At that time, a program called Dum Dum Dan was being filmed. And in that program, as a child, I started there for the first time with the main teacher. After that, it continued.
They have a lot of experience in these matters. May God bless them. Our late teacher Temel, we cannot forget them. They are very valuable. Let it be the postman, Gunguruyay, and let it be our brother Ali. We matured alongside them. Later on,
like this, without hurting people, but by encouraging them. By inspiring, he taught us a lot. Not just folk dances, he taught us the virtue of being human. He taught us respect for the elders, love for the young. He taught us to be one, to be united.
Temel teacher is not just a teacher to his students, but also a good role. His idealistic nature, which places great importance on being a role model, has sometimes even made him forget to be with his family.
We worked one evening. The work was around 11 o'clock. It ended. We were starting at 6 or 7. There was nothing. No stopping, no resting. When the kids got tired, I would tell them to sit and rest, but to watch me. I would go out and try to show the figures. I was trying to play the games. While I was playing, I would tell Erdoğan, watch me closely so I don't make a mistake. Don't dilute it, don't speed it up. Make sure it doesn't get watered down. While working in this way, Mr. Temel asked me if it was over for me, if the work was finished. We were dispersing everyone to their homes. He said, excuse me, let me go. Every evening, we would go and have dinner. What's up? I said, my wife is in labor, he said. Can you imagine? His wife is in labor, he's with the kids, and he came just so I wouldn't be alone. The poor man. How many teachers would do this?
Of course, I was very opposed to these activities because I was left alone. One of my children had just started school, my older daughter, and I was pregnant with the younger one. Then I thought, why did you get into this job? Look, I'm always alone. I'm about to give birth and you're still... He would say, it's okay, the neighbors will help you. In the meantime, we'd called my mother. Coincidence? She arrived that day and that evening I went into labor. We immediately sent word. I came running. We went straight to the hospital. So he was working even during my daughter's birth.
I mean, I'm originally from Thrace, but I'm very pleased with Silivri. I am very pleased with the people of Silivri. Very good. May God bless you.
We talked about the basics of Silivri region folk dances. Additionally, it's necessary to especially mention Hüseyin Görür, the cement of this indestructible structure. Combining the folkloric richness present in our region with his academic knowledge and bringing it to the present day, he left his managerial position at the Turkish Folklore Institution to roll up his sleeves and write a legend in this city. Disregarding all impossibilities and focusing solely on success, never detaching from the charming town he came from, and being a passionate Silivri native, Hüseyin Hoca will be described to us by his students.
Let's say up until 20, 25 years ago, or during the period when these studies were conducted, let's say the 1970s, during these times, it was possible to capture completely different Rumelian colors in Silivri's Gazi Hill, Santa and Selaliye. This richness was first seen in Silivri. Yes, teachers living there, various folklorists. Our dear teacher Hüseyin, they discovered and recorded this folkloric richness, even if with amateur methods. Therefore, we are grateful to them. The data we currently have emerged as a result of their work, data.
I have been very successful, except this. I have been very successful. The reason for my great success, the primary reason is a fundamental feature. Why? In Silivri, which village would I know? I don't know any village at all. The late one would come, I will tell. Today, we didn't go to such and such village, let's go there. Today, let's go, I don't know where. All right, let's go.
Coming from a very big struggle, choosing a district like Silivri, without receiving a very big reward, truly a person who has worked with good intentions. We owe a debt of gratitude on my behalf. I try to express my thanks every time I thank my teacher again. He has fought very serious battles while doing this work in a modern sense now. The people who script it. The formation of the world they move in, religions, cultures, science, all coming together. Your life's... Hüseyin Hocanlar has succeeded in bringing the scenarios, shaped and obtained from life, to the stage by observing and updating them from natural life. They were intelligent people, they used the right materials. From this perspective, the understanding of the plays, their conveyance to us, and our conveyance to other people stem from the essence of these people. They were good, enthusiastic, they sowed beautiful things, and beautiful things sprouted.
Now, when we look at it, of course, all those processes are interconnected. I mean, basically, Erdoğan, Hüseyin Görür mü, Mümin Tulu all have a very different and significant place with us.
When we first started, it goes back approximately 40, 45 years ago. Back then, the number of people who supported and helped us was very few.
I couldn't work much with my teacher Hüseyin. I worked mostly with my teacher Temel, and my most frequent teacher was Mümin Tulu. I am one of Mümin Tulu's students.
Bölümün Hoca truly contributed to and supported folk dances, and he himself has a talent for acting, bringing folk dances to a beneficial place, contributing to their advancement, is something that is one of the rare achievements.
At that time, of course, the main direct figure here was Erdoğan. He was a very curious and enthusiastic brother about this work. He was my friend Hüseyin Görür, whom I met at the Turkish Folklore Institution. They took Hüseyin Görür, they are playing Silifke, they are teaching Silifke. I also stopped by, we chatted a bit and so on. We had a chat about that there. I mean, that's it. It's nice, but we talked about what we can do from this region, what we can achieve. I went to Bitlis.
I settled in Kibraya. Of course, rather than a folk dance in this vein, I am someone who values folk science research. With that certificate, I started teaching folk dances at the Public Education Center.
We worked with Hüseyin Abi at Halk Eğitim, again at Silivri Halk Eğitim. Ali Gürsoy was training the Silivri team. Hüseyin Şahin had formed the Diyarbakır team. We met him back then. Hüseyin Şahin in folk dances had a vision, meaning he had a vision beyond Silivri, because he did this during his university years and had a network. Many of his friends are now in significant positions in folk dances. He himself has a dialogue with them and is an elder brother who has always been beneficial to the Silivri community.
The folklore of a city is not just the games played there, without a doubt. Its music as well as its melody, and sayings are as important as its attire. At this point, those working at the Silivri Public Education Center that day, but who feel the passion for Silivri, deep in their lungs with their sayings and verses. This delightful journey, conveyed to literature books from Nuri Tanner, the author of the poem, from which our documentary takes its name. It would be remiss not to mention, absolutely.
Greetings to Silivri, to Silivri's players. Tirahyo under Arda. From Havai to Siofa. Anatolia is the homeland. Tirahyo is dear. Dear to Silivri.
Let me put it this way, when we played folk dances, we were as few as the fingers on one hand. We didn't have friends joining us due to things stemming from the family structure of that time. Some got bored, left, or some were not allowed by their families. Most of those not allowed by their families were our female friends. We couldn't rise above a certain group. I mean, back then we were a team of approximately 12 people. We were both doing dirty shows, and we were working at the Public Education Center under the supervision of Ali Gürsoy. The foundation of the cultural house you have came from there anyway. And Silivrican was born from there as well. I mean, back in those days, Nuri Hoca was here with us, the Silivrican victim, the poet. At the Silivrican Public Education Center, we were conducting our work under the supervision of Ali Abi, along with the assistant director.
When you mention Silivri, even though it's a district, it's a name in Turkey. Now, Professor Nuri Taner had written a poem. I believe you also took it from him. Let me put it this way, how do you read it? They read it differently from time to time. Anatolia is the homeland, Thrace is the soul. I would sacrifice my life for Silivri. We had a sister named Aishan, she would read it very beautifully. This affected people a lot. Look now, music, play costume. How did harmony and poetry complete each other? I mean, it brings tears to one's eyes.
The girl is reading her thing, but there's a gap. I say, I wouldn't forget a girl's name like Aishi. I said, just hold a note for me. I said, this girl, I said, I did the thing. I said, let it be more like this. A beautiful thing. I played a long tune. My brother-in-law is holding a note for me. I'm playing a long tune, but lightly. I'm playing it lightly. Aisha is both crying and reading her thing.
I am one of those who wholeheartedly say I would sacrifice myself for Silivri, because I was one of the first to read this poem when Nuri Taner wrote it. We used to have Asian read it. Later on, there was the period when she read it in her school activities. But, you know, let the scholarship hold steady. This time, call upon the honor all those musicians referred to as, hey, big head man. I worked with all of them, and this is a great joy for me.
In the verses of Nuri Taner's poem, Canım Kurban to Silivri, it is possible to find the names of those who wrote this epic. However, alongside this, there are also the nameless heroes of the Silivri region. The is it possible not to remember those who etched the melodies of Silivri into hearts, as if tasting a line with their breaths, and drumsticks?
Here are these individual games, played well by people from the public. For example, Ali Bichen, he is also from Silivri. There was Erdoğan abi, him, Muharram Munduz, especially Brother Sefer, he plays these games for us. The music was also important. I mean, the music was also there in our neighborhood, you know. In the Roma neighborhood, playing, they, including Sefer Abi, came from there. From Greece, among the immigrants. They knew the music very well. These played games, these folk dances. Sefer Abi would both sing these, play them with the clarinet, and also dance. He also knew how to dance. We learned many dances from Sefer Abi.
The person I remember the most was our tambourine player, Sister Esma. She would come to all the weddings. She would play the tambourine where the women were, Sefer and Salih Agas. It's impossible to forget them. They were the icons of our childhood. Today, of course, people watch famous musicians on television. There was no television back then. Just like the days we lived with the music we listened to on the radio. Brother Sefer with his drum and zurna, Salih Sefer, and of course Sister Esma. Back then as children, we stood next to our mother. Our mother wouldn't let us go. Around 4 or 5 years old. I remember the years before going to primary school. They were indispensable at those weddings. It was a means of socializing. We would hear music from them. They had nothing. Despite not having any infrastructure, they would play them. Now we understand better that they kept those days alive, in my opinion.
I am a cymbal player. You know, I play the authentic tunes of the Silivri region. That too, as a legacy from my father. Our fathers worked very hard. They struggled a lot.
So we came here with the overall aim of introducing folklore to you. As for us, our fathers did not come from the town of Selik in Thessaloniki. As for myself, Selik, from Çantaköy, therefore, I was born. My age is coming to 53 to 54. We are here to show you these things.
At that time in this region, our brother Adem İçen passed away. These are, again, our superiors from the Kalam family. To those playing this game in other villages, let's see you take a step. Come on, take a step. By putting it into numbers, our taller ones were also very experienced. The late Hanım Yorum, Salih and Sefer were a duo. Their contributions were also quantified. Later, I think the Ministry of Culture probably made it even more scientific. In this way, the Silivri region took its place.
Expedition. Tatlı Çoglu was on the clarinet. Salih Tatlıcıoğlu was. On the drums, we received a lot of help from them. We to them. I mean, I was always by their side as my foundation. Not even once. Give us money, bro. Why don't you give us money? I never heard them say that.
Our brother Talih, may he rest in peace, and our brother Sefer used to play. Sometimes they wouldn't get along, arguing over notes, saying, you played this wrong here, you played this right there. Truly with great dedication. Maybe the money they earned wasn't that much, but they worked with dedication as well.
I worked with Sefer Abi and the late Salih Abi. Later on, I also worked with them during the time I was teaching. They played drums and clarinet with my teams. They hold a very special place. I think I should say the sad thing about Silivri right now. There haven't been musicians like the ones who grew up like our old brothers. I mean, right now there still hasn't been anyone to take their place. Musician, I don't know Silivri either.
So Salih Agay influenced us a lot, especially me. I mean, because I also play the drums myself. I still have the image in my mind of him playing the drums, losing himself, as if in a state of worship. It was as if everything in his body was like religious ritual, playing the drums as if performing a dhikr. I mean, his playing was not just an ordinary thing.
I have my back turned to the team. If I watch Sefer Aga, it will be with Salih Aga. From Salih Aga's look, his color, he immediately understands there's one too many in the team. Now he looks like this as he slightly steals the soil. He keeps hitting. Then the game is over, he's coming. Hey coach, we're working so hard, we're giving it our all, it's a shame. Hey coach, you're mistaken again. Hey, Aga. You know this, I know this. The audience won't understand, don't go into so much detail. You're at zero with your spirit. Something would happen, it would be frustrating.
But now look, I'm not saying Roman, I mean Gypsy. These are a bit modernized gypsies. In a way, in my opinion, no, it's just a Roman band here. I mean, there are also others, you know, like our paper collectors, Bakagu and so on. In general, they don't call themselves gypsies, but rather Roman whatever. Now, Metin, for example. In some competitions held across Turkey right now, when you say Roman style, you get disqualified, your score drops. Why? They are also part of us. What difference is there between them and us?
They also used to love it a lot. They are also from our Roma community, of course, the workers. I still saw them. Recently, my eyes welled up. His wife, she is one of the wives of that bush. Oh, she says, how much we remember, how much we remember. She would be with us, she would come to our neighborhood. In fact, when we offered something, she would eat and drink with us so that we wouldn't feel left out, so that we wouldn't be upset. They say a person like her never came here again. It's a beautiful thing. I also feel honored, of course, along with her.
Honestly, the teacher was a very good teacher. He was a strict teacher. I mean, he always favored us. He never belittled us. He always supported us.
I can't explain anything. I can't explain anything. You can explain, you can explain. I'll mention it. I play the Kremli. I play the Kremli. I've been playing the Kremli since a young age. Creamy. This is Silivri'ye. Silivri'ye.
For me, Uncle Muhtar is very important. He has always been very supportive of us in competitions, both when I was a player and during my coaching period. That's why I kiss him on the eyes. Truly, they are also special to us. Our brother Izzet, our brother Abidin. Our brother Cüneyt, our brother Kevat are such important and special people. They are both a part of our family. We are theirs. We never left their places, their homes, for a very long time.
Here are the drums played by Salih A, Sefer A, the Muhtar. The Queens, Muhtar, Ali, Izlet. The drums played by the royalty. Remain as a ringing in our ears.
Here, the tree that all these heroes have nurtured has today educated thousands of students, secured its rightful place in the literature as one of Turkey's notable regional dances, and continues to look to the future with hope. It is also worthwhile to listen to those who have brought this region to light, as well as the students they have trained who carry it into the future.
Now, what Silivri has contributed to us is a lot. In this sense, even though it seems like we are doing something for Silivri, what Silivri has contributed to us is a lot. Today, all of us are occupying something somewhere. We are occupying places, we are occupying seats, we are working somewhere. There is only one reason for this: Silivri folk dances.
I'm glad I got involved with folk dances, that's what I say. I'm glad I danced, I'm glad I worked with Brother Taino, I'm glad for so many friends. I mean, even the fact of making these friends is thanks to folk dances. I mean, even my riding a motorcycle is connected to folk dances. I mean, my first trip abroad, that's where in Italy the passion for motorcycles came. I mean, I've been riding a motorcycle since I was 13 years old. Even this has a connection to folk dances.
Can you imagine now A guy going to middle school, we started playing folk dances when we were in middle school. You're performing somewhere by the order of a governor. You're being applauded by a district governor, or, as we saw them then, by important people. Well, you're being appreciated, you know, and so on. And there are a lot of people there. A lot of people come to watch you. Your mother comes, your father comes, your relatives come, your spouse comes, your friend comes. Well, after the performance, they congratulate you there, and so on like that. And in the places you go, there are others like you. Other schools that come there, other people. You meet a lot of people you never thought of, didn't know, and will probably never see again. This gives you confidence. Like a feeling of, wow, who am I really? A kind of aura. One, you break free from being antisocial. So what does that confidence do for you? It helps you find a place in society. For example, in your political life, playing these folk dances, playing folklore, has contributed 90%, a bit bold. I'm a person who dives into everything like, what would they say about me here, etc. Where can such confidence come from in a person? I mean, it doesn't happen on its own. Well, there is the confidence given by my family. There is certainly a share of contribution in this, but not as much as what the folk dances provided. I mean, it's definitely there.
I think folk dances play the biggest role in our socialization because from a very young age you learn about human relationships. You learn to be away from family. You learn much more clearly how to interact with everyone and how to behave in certain situations. This also becomes something that boosts your self-confidence. In life, it also shapes your perspective and, I believe, your achievements. It's a situation that influences them.
In gaining self-confidence, in our subsequent lives, it actually led to very fundamental, very important things, allowing us to gain achievements because you are playing with a team. What you do in a team game is not an individual thing. Therefore, being on the same line, stepping on the same foot at the same time, catching that harmony with the music and the drum, even though it seems like listing many things, in fact, in your subsequent life, in your entire life, whether it be your entire artistic view life or your philosophy, it is very important in all of them. Things that have significant effects.
What we need the most is, without saying, who are you? Whether they need it or not, to say to someone, I'm with you. This is a very beautiful thing. You do this by holding their hand, by standing behind them, by making them feel it. This is very important. I say yes. If you want to socialize, it's enough for them to just see. That holds the rest of it. Let them catch the sound of that clarinet, the rhythm of that drum beat. It doesn't leave again, because it didn't leave us.
When you start dancing, you realize that it doesn't matter if you're from the east or the west. No matter which lands you live on, it doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man. You hold hands, you sweat together. This is a very important power. A power that organizes the inner disciplines of a person. While working on folk dances, the only concern started to form at this point, because I had somehow perceived this in the environments here. I realized that I didn't give anything to people without expecting something in return. The thing I gave was that people who somehow came to school for education should join hands and arms, sweat, and work hard for a discipline, but in return, when they go out on the street, they should have people to greet, to prevent them from pulling knives on each other, turning to bad habits, and to enable them to step back from these.
At this age, when we hear a clarinet, a drum, we can't help but play. Something starts to stir inside us. So no matter what, we start going, hey, it's something like this, something like this. It gives a thrill, it gives excitement.
Well, you play once, you feel once. Look, I describe something to you. I might not play, let this music play here. Even if I don't dance, if my insides are dancing, then I call that a performer. It is playing, it plays this. I mean,
For example, Mesut and I have been playing together since middle school. Of course, we took breaks. They went to the military. Naturally, we also stopped. Marriages and a few other things got in the way. You know, things like that. We started again just as we left off. I mean, even if we never practice or rehearse in a performance or even in a competition, for instance, we are that confident. We lift our feet in the same way. There is no difference at all. That's how accustomed we are.
I was a soldier in Izmir, the FA. Dances were happening there in Tepechik. I went inside there. While the FAs were dancing, the officials were in military uniforms. I also started doing the figures. The FAs were surprised. They say, "Where are you?" I said, "Where are you from?" I said, "Coming from that business." I also danced with them there.
You know, going out in a costume, it's kind of a thing, there's a bit of shyness involved. Especially since we're grown-ups now. We're big in costume. But we did these things with pride. We always carried it with pride. This is actually an awareness. I especially want to emphasize this to your youth. They should not be ashamed of their past. In other words, they should not fall victim to the West and technology. Subtitle, MK. We need to uphold our values and cultures.
Bringing together several generations around a drum and clarinet is a skill. Putting in effort like it's a child, watching it grow and flourish with daily care is also commendable. The fruit of all this is far beyond the folkloric work. Bringing people closer to each other, placing the wheat ear of Thrace next to the Black Sea tea, embracing societies without discrimination so that the taste of folk dances becomes irresistible. Perhaps this is the most important aspect.
The world is increasingly resembling each other. People are dancing to the same music, dressing in the same way. In fact, there is even the danger of them speaking a single language. Therefore, everyone is resembling each other and many colors are fading. The first to fade, the cultural asset most vulnerable to time, is folklore. Folklore is modernism. It does not have much strength to withstand it. But as people become more alike, a bit more different, groups with distinctive qualities, people who have preserved their slightly different qualities will, in my opinion, be more valuable. That is, when one day the whole world becomes American, to the folklore of Silivri, something related to their own life, people who preserve, live and recognize these local values will be known and recognized as the value of humanity. I think in that regard, before these notes fly away, before they disappear, before they are forgotten, the languages, dialects, accents, idioms, proverbs, songs and folk songs spoken in this region, before they vanish, before the games completely disappear, it is necessary to be as diligent as possible in compiling them and making efforts to keep them alive. Because culture does not belong to any particular people, region, or ethnicity. Culture is the common property of humanity. And this region is one of the most ancient civilization areas on earth. This region on the periphery of Istanbul sits on a very vibrant cultural past. This cultural past is a cultural past that should not fade away. For this reason, people who are passionate about Silivri's folklore products, people who are devoted to the local values in Silivri, like you, should be diligent in compiling, recording, and passing them on to the next generation.
People now value the nationally promoted culture rather than the dominant local culture. They are doing something about it in related scenes. We also desire this. If we live in this city, we aim for you to show interest in the dances of this city, to show interest and attention to the games of this city, and thus actually get to know this city and become at peace with the city you live in.
Cultural integration brings unity, togetherness, and harmony to the country and enables it to defend itself against other countries. However, modern culture corrupts the youth, accustoms the youth to other things. However, local governments have this, but they do not think of it as a team game. The motifs, foods, traditions, here, for example, many people come here from different regions. This is the method of integrating with those people. When we were council members from 89 to 94, we took camps from people in the summer places here. We brought people from various parts of Turkey and Europe and we integrated them. We hosted them, treated them as guests, fed them our foods, taught them our games. We went there, established friendships. In other words, this development was not just about the game. We made efforts to develop folk dances and folk music, which are the fruits of the people's life, their millennia-old life. I wasn't very successful, but the situation we have reached in Silivri is good. Silivri is good across Turkey?
It's not about doing something just for the sake of doing it, but rather focusing on it with all its weight. I think we need to provide even more support to our talented young people and offer them greater opportunities.
Silivri is already a small place. Everyone can see how far the folk dancers and people interested in folk dances have come here. We grew up away from all bad things. Thank God. Hopefully it will be the same for our children. I don't think there is another child who would get involved in folk dances and acquire bad habits. That's why I recommend it strongly.
Silivri is the place where these cultures meet. In that sense, what our teacher has done, maybe in the future, historians, sociologists, urban scientists who understand this better will understand this culture here better. To our streets, to our buildings, to our way of life, to those coming from outside here. All our fellow citizens who have accepted this place as their homeland, providing for the future freedom and drink of their children and grandchildren here, securing their future here. The folklore you mentioned is very important for understanding what they are sitting on and what kind of tradition they come from. Now I am looking at the teams, not just children born and raised in Silivri. You see, children of families from many parts of Turkey are also playing the game with Silivri. This blend is much more important in terms of explaining what a wonderful thing our teacher has started.
It's an incredibly enjoyable thing. Where is it I put in that effort? Ultimately, people, the times are a bit tough, and somehow you need to release that energy. In this regard, the most logical, the most beautiful, and I would definitely recommend folklore, as there are so many things to experience. The games.
Actually, it's a matter of the heart. Like in theater, it's a matter of the heart. If there is anyone who truly wants and loves, let them come and see 1 session, 2 sessions. They will want it themselves anyway.
Honestly, once you give your heart to folk dances, you get into it immediately. Once it gets you, it's an incurable disease. Everyone who plays will agree with this. With my opinion, it never leaves you again. Wherever you go, when you hear music, you definitely want to dance.
I'm glad I started and we're still continuing. Thanks to my friends. We still meet up with everyone in our current lives. My advice to the young people, so folklore as merely folklore, see it as a way of life. Go for it.
In the garden of this high school, I enjoyed playing with these friends you see, and other friends who are not here. So those were beautiful days. We are still continuing. This fire inside us doesn't go out. Sometimes I ask only one thing from God. May my legs hold up, may my memory stay intact, so that I can hear that music, that rhythm. I can apply it.
We are after money. What can't be done with money? We need people, we need little people. We are those who know each other, who uphold our culture, emerging from grandfather. We are people who come to children and grandchildren. Truly, those who will keep Silivri alive. I don't know how many people there are, but maybe 2 people are left, maybe 1 person is left.
I can't explain anything. I explain something. You explain. Let's talk about it. My work with Kremli, I work with Kremli, worked with cream since young. Creamy. This is Chile. Chile.
I played at Kuzmasek City High School. I realized I played a lot in high school. Come for nothing. Played for nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing in hand or palm. I mean, we said, let's make a name for ourselves. Made a name. God, thanks for this. Whichever village I go to, I mean, today in Silivri's, they call me Muhtar brother. They say even to the Muhtar.
Today, 35 years have passed. Maybe there are one or two of my children that I don't see. If we can still meet with all of them, with the same pleasure, the same enjoyment and the same beauty, it means we have done the right things.
What I want from Silivri, especially from the people of Silivri, our youth should embrace their own culture.
Well, I would say now, however many teams there are in Silivri, instead of being in competition all together in one place socially, I am sure you will find something better by bringing together and combining the best of them. That's how I perceive it sometimes. Why? I ask myself that question. However, I think everything should be done together, everything should be beautified together.
People send their children for social activities. I observe this in folk dances. I might be wrong, but yes, but it has such an important place in our lives that it has become so. Even now, the continuation of our 20-25-year friendships is here. I believe it has greatly contributed to reaching these levels in our professional lives. Folk dances. I believe that what folk dances have contributed to me has been very significant. Therefore, I think if they love dance and are interested, they should definitely join. This is not only for them to spend their time more efficiently, but it's also very important as a start that will guide their lives. That's why I strongly recommend it.
First of all, I advise our young friends this. Let them love folk dances. Folk dances are a part of our culture that we have carried from the past to the present. This should be passed on to the generations that come after them in the way they have learned it, and they should not give up. It is a difficult job, a job that requires effort, but it is also a very enjoyable job.
Something that wants big promises. I mean, am I going to compete when I play this? Will I come first? What will I get in return? Without thinking about it, they can collect beautiful memories, beautiful friendships, beautiful things like us. Instead of spending time outside, it would be great if they spent time with folklore.
I also worked at the Public Education Center as a folk dance instructor. I did it for a very long time. I never saw a student attending folk dance classes who was mediocre. I didn't see any. In other words, the classes were definitely above average. I never saw a lazy student, not a single one. I didn't see any discord among them. Families should definitely send their children to folk dance classes and activities. Encourage the children.
Today, the folk dance community is actually made up of those whom I call my dearest, my friends. And when I look back, they are all folk dancers. In other words, there are no new people. They are all at least 20-year-old friends of mine. When we look, they are friends I grew up with together. So this is something very different. I mean, it's very hard to achieve this today. But we have maintained this friendship so beautifully. In other words, we are growing old together with the friends we grew up with.
Now the friendships we're talking about, such friendships are at least 30 years, 40 years old. Now those 40-year friendships will continue slowly. Some of our friends we are losing as everyone goes one by one. We will remember beautiful things.
those who bring beautiful things to life will certainly remember beautiful things. Those who set out on a path without caring about the toughest conditions will always be fondly remembered by those who follow in their footsteps. All the students, raised by the names, remembered with prayer and respect, will shout the same verses tomorrow as they do today. Anatolia is the homeland, Thrace is the soul. Do Silivri, my dear, sacrifice.